If you, like me, were left with a deep sense of empathy and sorrow for Donnie after witnessing his abuse by Darrien, then you will likely understand how Kevin Spacey's alleged victims also felt.
He's in between me and the door, and he just whips out his and shoves his tongue in my mouth, and he wanted to finish, and how am I going to get out of this?
And we get to see 9 new victims tell their shocking stories in Spacey Unmasked, which was released on HBO Max on May 10th, 2024.
I could smell him.
I was inappropriately touched on set. There's no way this is happening.
It was all about, I can do this to you.
I am incredibly proud of these brave men for coming forward in hopes that them speaking out will help other men to heal and be free from shame. My name is Catherine Sloan. I'm a licensed therapist in North Carolina, and I'm here to look at this topic through the lens of mental health and psychology. In this video, I'm going to be drawing some parallels between Kevin Spacey's alleged victims and Richard Gadd's experience with Darrien, finding 3 things in common. Number 1, grooming tactics. Number 2, power dynamics. And number 3, the psychological impact on the victims. Now, I want to be clear that Kevin Spacey has been found not guilty of his criminal charges, and in response to the HBO docuseries, he was not given enough time to respond. But this doesn't mean that he hasn't done anything wrong. It just means there wasn't enough evidence to show criminal behavior. And I'm going to show you some clips of his general responses he's giving to these allegations and how he rationalizes his behaviors. He has recently been outspoken about his side of the story, and I have watched his interviews with an open mind. In Spacey Unmasked, 9 men who were not involved in the criminal trial against Spacey speak out about the unwanted sexual advances from Spacey and how it impacted them. And these men have not shared their stories prior to this documentary. And just as Richard Gadd feels shame and confusion about his own responses to his essay, Spacey's victims report the same feelings.
Don't find yourself in those situations. So it's so shocking, and I can only speak for myself, but your first reaction is not violence. It's, you feel like you did something wrong, you brought it onto yourself, and you feel shame.
So when I was listening to some of these men speak about their pain, it took me back to Donnie's internal processing as he was experiencing the pain of his abuse and his own internal shame.
Pressed me up against the wall. And why did I freeze? Why did I just let it happen? It didn't feel human. It never does.
Let's take a look at what grooming is in this context. Grooming is defined as a manipulative process by which an abuser gradually builds a relationship, trust, and emotional connection with a victim in order to exploit, manipulate, and control them for abusive purposes.
Whereas he was a pernicious, manipulative groomer. To admit to her was to admit to him. And I hadn't admitted him to anyone yet.
Here are some specific examples of how he used grooming tactics to manipulate younger men in the industry. Personal attention. Spacey often gave his victims special attention, making them feel valued and important. And this created a sense of trust and rapport, which he later exploited.
I go over to my dressing room, and there's a knock at the door. Kevin's assistant comes in and says, "Rory, this is from Kevin." And I opened the box, and it had a little card from Kevin, and it said, "Rory, happy opening, K."
Mentorship. Spacey positioned himself as a mentor to young aspiring actors, offering guidance, career advice, and opportunity.
For a mentor in the industry, and I extremely trusted that I may have just found one. He said, come up around midnight, and I go up to the top floor of the penthouse. The door opens. And there he is, it's Kevin. He's in a bathrobe, with a scotch, with a joint. There is nobody there but us. And I go, are you Are you sure people are coming? He goes, yeah, people come in, they come out, I'll let them in, and the party gets going as the night goes on, and sit.
Then there was creating opportunities for isolation. So there would be private meetings, and Spacey would arrange private meetings under the guise of professional development or social gatherings. And these settings provided him with opportunities to be alone with his victims.
Kind of grinding into me, like humping me. Just like, hey, whoa, man, like, you met my girlfriend, like, you know she's downstairs, like, that's not cool. And he's like, no, it's okay, it's fine. Well, you're okay, you're good, don't freak out.
Now with Donnie, his abuser can be seen as using these same grooming tactics. So Darrien gained Donnie's trust by appearing supportive and interested in his career, inviting him to be alone with him and using emotional manipulation to break down his boundaries and gain control.
To rights, I felt like I was gliding on the winds of change. Like this man was dangling some keys to a secret club, and all I needed to do was take his hand and let him guide me. What are we doing in here?
Now, I also want to give you a peek at how Kevin Spacey views these allegations.
I'm absolutely accepting that at times I behaved poorly. And if anyone wonders, why I would have done that, yes, you're right. I was involved in horseplay, and I was involved in interactions on set that were just fun, and I made a lot of jokes and, sexual innuendos, and it was sort of more common in those circumstances than it is now. And I might have been having fun because everyone was laughing, and that's what I wanted to have people do.
So are these advances just poor judgment? Is he really just a big flirt? Number 2, let's look at power dynamics. Spacey, in the character of Darrien, often targeted young, inexperienced actors who were new to the industry and more likely to be influenced by his status and authority. We don't see them using these tactics on people with more influence or more authority than them, right? So he didn't use these tactics on, let's say, Robert De Niro or Tom Hanks. And many of the victims in Haywood's 2-part documentary claim to have been starstruck by Spacey, bowled over by his promise to aid them in their careers, only to soon realize that it was in exchange for alleged sexual favors, often while on the set, as they claimed he would kidnap crew members to run lines.
To me, he said, I'm kidnapping you up to my dressing room to run lines with me. Getting to run lines with him felt like this is dream come true.
And I want you, the listener, to imagine the person that you admire the most in the world, the person who you put on a pedestal and see as the expert in the field that you would love to advance in. Then imagine that person providing you special attention, but then wanting sexual favors in return. How would that affect you mentally? How would you respond? Chances are you wouldn't respond in the rational or logical way you think you would.
Sense of guilt, because I just felt like that was my fault, and I felt so disgusted with myself. That was the greatest day, on set for me, and it very quickly turned sour when I realized if I potentially have to keep working with this guy and I get more lines, is this something that I'm going to experience on a regular basis? And what power do I have?
Number 3, the psychological and emotional impact on the victims in both cases was profound.
Staying in bed all day. You just go like that. What's the point? There was a naivety there of feeling like you were on a mission to become the best actor in the world. But as soon as you get made to feel like that small, you're almost muted. Your voice gets smaller.
Gad experienced severe mental health issues, while Spacey's victims reported trauma, anxiety, and career setbacks. The fear of speaking out and the potential professional repercussions were common themes, and that reflects the broader issue of power dynamics in the entertainment industry. We see Spacey's victims discussing their freeze response to these sexual advances, just as Donnie experienced in Baby Reindeer. Instead of asking questions like, why didn't these men fight back? Why didn't they report this sooner? Why didn't they say no more clearly? We need to be focusing on the perpetrator's actions and asking the questions like, why did he think it's okay just to grab somebody's private parts with no indication that there was romantic interest? Why didn't he leave these young men alone when they would hint that they weren't interested? Why did he think it was acceptable to behave this way? Why didn't he look for romantic partners who were the same age and who were consensual up front? So Richard Gadd's Baby Reindeer and the cases of Kevin Spacey's alleged victims provide powerful narratives of how power can be abused to groom and sexually exploit individuals with less power in the entertainment industry. And this also happens in churches and other professional settings and in families. If you've been a victim in this type of situation, just know it is not your fault. Whether you're a man or a woman, sexual abuse is soul abuse. It harms your psyche more than your body, and this kind of indifference and disrespect for another person is highly hurtful on a deeper level than mere emotions, and it really damages a person's self-worth. Now, do you think Spacey has asked himself the difficult, deeper questions about his behavior, or do you think that he is still rationalizing his behaviors?
Nor has it ever been alleged to have been illegal. Did I ever hook up with another actor? Yes. Did I make a clumsy pass at someone who wasn't interested, as it turned out? Yes. But I was not employing them. I was not their boss. I was oftentimes just swimming in for an hour here and there as a well-known actor to lend support, to ask questions and answer questions. And you look, that may not have been the best decision, and it's not one that I would do today, but it happened. It wasn't illegal, and nor has it ever been alleged.
Do you see him as a good person who just made some really bad choices and deserves to be back on the screen, or do you see these behaviors as unforgivable and see him as a threat to those he would be working with? Do you think he understands the consequences to his behaviors? These are questions we all get to grapple with as we make choices about what movies to watch and who to celebrate and admire in our pop culture and entertainment industry. I'm going to leave a link on the screen for those of you who have suffered from abuse and need to talk to somebody. I hope that these victims will give you the courage to speak out and find healing for yourself if you've been through anything like this. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.